This just in, Kase and I have something a little bit special, isn't that right, dude?
Absolutely. This is a little more exotic than our usual, right, Tommy?
So this is the new 2025 McLaren Artura Spider, and Kase and I are usually out on the Classics channel driving a Fiat 500 with 17 horsepower. This is a little bit more than that.
A lot more horsepower than that, 690.
That's right, and in this video we're going to take you all around the new Artura Spider. We're going to get it out on the road, probably scare us witless in the process, and talk about our first experience driving this new McLaren Artura. Now for 2025, the Artura has seen an update, including the new introduction to the Spider version, which is some $20,000+ more than the coupe, but it does have this cool party trick. Kase, let me put the top down for you.
Yeah, why don't you show the operation? Because, oh, actually, before you do that, you should show the top, the clear portion of it.
Oh, good point. So this Spider is spec'd with this really cool electrochromatic top. And check this out, if I push this button, it goes from this opaque finish to a clear finish. Now this is not exclusive to McLaren, a lot of other manufacturers do this, but it's really nicely integrated, and it's pretty much the entire roof panel that goes from clear to opaque. Now the top operation is going to be this little switch right here. I'm going to pull that back, and in just 11 seconds, that panel is going to
look at all that carbon.
Slide back. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, pretty nuts.
Dude, that thing is awesome. So let's talk about the car. I'm going to put the windows down so we get the full view here. Artura is, of course, a full carbon tub, and this is, believe it or not, the entry-level McLaren, which is a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, I guess as entry-level as McLarens get, right?
Exactly right. And for 2025, we see a power boost as well. So this is a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, mated to a 94 horsepower electric motor in the 8-speed dual clutch. And Kase talked about the total power. It's
690.
690 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds according to McLaren. And we just ran this car through some performance testing, which you'll see over at TFL Car. And even at over a mile above sea level, we ran this car 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds and the quarter mile in 10:74.
Yeah, which is also on an unprepped surface and at a mile above sea level. So the fact that this car put down those numbers under those conditions is pretty insane.
Now the color on this car is wild. This is a color called Lantana Purple, or Lantana Purple. And what do you think, Kase, of this shade of kind of rich purple?
I actually love it. If you're gonna get a McLaren, it might as well be purple. And this is a really deep, rich color. It's really cool to look at, especially with some of these orange accents like here on the brakes, looking at the interior, all of these orange, really thin pieces of piping. You got the same thing on the dash, on the door cards, and a little bit on the paddles, and that's pretty cool. Also the start button as well, because this is a McLaren. McLaren's color is orange, and having some of those accents is pretty neat.
I never thought an orange and purple car would work so well, but it absolutely does. And from a design standpoint, my absolute favorite part about this car is all the functionality of the vents. So you're not going to find any intercoolers or intakes that are blocked off with little bits of plastic. So for example, here in the front end, everything is completely exposed, and that just gives the car a very purposeful look. Now this car is rolling on a set of very staggered tires, of course. Pirelli P0s in this case are 235s in the front, and then they're 295s in the back. And you can also spec this car with the Corsas, which is going to be a more aggressive track-focused tire.
It's crazy that a P0 is the less aggressive tire, Tommy. That just goes to show how much more extreme this vehicle is than the majority of what we do our testing with, because a P0 is a pretty mean tire in itself.
And then when you look at the exterior of this car, you're going to find carbon throughout. This has got the exterior carbon pack as well. And what that means is like the vents, the mirror caps here are all going to be covered in this exposed carbon. One of the most distinctive design elements of this car, I'm not sure how I feel about it, are kind of these clear buttresses.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it necessarily serves any functional purpose, do you?
I don't think so. I mean, it's lightweight. It's clearly like a urethane material here.
I guess it could potentially give you a bit of extra visibility out the back, but either way, I don't think it's a bad look.
And then out in the rear, of course, as is kind of signature with McLaren now, everything is hollow, right? Everything serves an aerodynamic purpose. This is a car that's built for purpose, and so many of these cars are just seen cruising around Beverly Hills, but you can really tell with the functional vents and all the functional downforce that this thing was meant to hit a track. And clear talking to the engineer before we got our performance testing done, that's exactly what they intend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the immediate feeling that you get in this car when you start to move down the road. Like you said, there's so much aero going on with this car, and it's all beautifully executed. The shape of this, the curves on it are really impressive. And like you said, carbon on the mirror caps there, also a little bit on these fins over the wheel.
And what's also impressive is just the sheer amount of space underneath this front trunk. So the car looks very compact, and when you're behind the wheel, it feels incredibly small, but there is plenty of room for a nice weekend out with a significant other underneath this front trunk.
Yeah, you could definitely get an overnight bag in there.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about kind of this car's party trick, and that is right over here, Kase.
Oh.
So the Artura Spider is actually a plug-in hybrid. So it's a plug-in hybrid, but not in the same way that a Chevy Volt is a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah, in a slightly different way, right?
It's a little different, right? So a lot of plug-in hybrids are meant for efficiency, meant to kind of help with your daily commute. And certainly there is some benefit with the Artura where you can leave your neighborhood without waking up everybody. But this plug-in hybrid system with the 7.4 kilowatt hour battery is meant for performance first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think back to some of the McLarens that Tommy and I grew up with, stuff like the P1, those were really cool vehicles that were debuting some of that technology, creating a performance hybrid. And it feels like that technology has kind of trickled down into this, which is a pretty neat thing. Also, just taking a look at it with the doors up.
The money shot right there.
That's not a bad look, huh?
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, that is the shot for sure.
And I gotta say, the ingress on this car is actually not that bad. It's easier to get into than our BMW i8, which is
surprisingly
an exotic car, but significantly less exotic.
And what if you notice is the sills are actually pretty narrow, right? So
Yeah.
where a lot of the supercars where the door goes up, they'll have a really wide sill, but this is pretty accessible. And then these are in America, I believe we only get the Club Sport seats, so they're a pretty aggressive bolstering, not a ton of cushion or padding, but they are pretty livable still.
I'd say they're reasonably comfortable, and I really like the material. Obviously, the materials all across the inside of this car are very impressive. And then you've got some interesting technology as well.
Yeah, so here we've got the full carbon steering wheel, of course, with the massive paddles. But what's cool about this is up here on the cluster, this is where you're going to be able to control the whole character of the car. So on the left side, we have our chassis controls. So we've got track handling, sport handling, or comfort. And then on the right, that's where we're going to go through our different engine controls. So we've got electric mode, we've got comfort, we've got sport, and lastly, track. And that's going to dial in not only the shift points and how responsive that engine's going to be, but it's going to change the electric programming as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit on the road.
Yeah, now let me go ahead and jump in, which I'm a little impressed that I can do while holding a camera.
You'll also notice that this whole steering wheel and console moves as one. So this is going to be, it's very driver centric in here, right? This is a very track focused vehicle. And then I'm going to show a couple other little buttons over here, Kase, if you don't mind. So over here we have the most important button. That right there is going to be your nose lift. So this is a very low front end, so you push that to raise it up a little bit. We've got some driver assistance buttons over here, and then your start button is actually down here. Put your foot on the brake. It's going to glide into life. And then I started it in comfort, but you can also start it in the electric mode for total silent operation. Now the shifting is a little different than a conventional car over here. So you've got drive, neutral, and reverse. There's no park. So the way you park this car is you go into neutral and then you pull the electronic parking brake here. But I'm gonna go into drive there. Let's start out in the comfort mode. Actually, let's try to get into the electric mode. That might be kind of a fun thing to play with. Into drive there. It's still in that warm-up phase with the catalytic converters. Going to do the nose lift. There we go. For this little dirt patch as we leave this gravel parking lot. There we go. And that nose lift is so essential with how low these cars are.
Yeah, absolutely, especially because here in Colorado, we've definitely got some steep driveways and parts of our road systems that you're going to need that for. I'm sure most people do, most places that you would live, potentially. Mm-hmm. So the nose lift is just useful in general.
So there we go. Now we're in the full electric mode. Now McLaren says you can go about 11 miles on full electricity. Not a ton, right, Kase?
No, it's not tons, but it's enough to get you in and out of your neighborhood if you're trying to be a good neighbor. I guess it depends on your neighbors, because maybe your neighbors want to hear your car. I definitely would.
If you've got cool neighbors. And it is also interesting that you feel, because the electric motor is built into that 8-speed transmission, you actually feel the shift points when you're in the electric mode.
Yeah.
So 11 miles, I think realistically you could probably squeeze out more than that. The instrument cluster indicates fully charged is closer to about 20 miles on a charge, but you can go plenty quick here. You can commute in the EV mode, and it's plenty quick. And then to click on that engine, I'm going to cycle it into the sport mode here. And what that's done here is it's actually raised that target for where it tries to keep the battery charged. So in the comfort mode, it retains about 20% of the battery. In sport mode, it's closer to like 60%, and then if you go to track mode, it actually tries to keep that battery fully charged.
Yeah, so that you can have access to the acceleration from the electric portion of your powertrain. And that's one of the reasons that this car does really well here at a mile above sea level, because it loses less of that horsepower due to our elevation.
Now we got to talk about the party trick of this McLaren. It's got 19 more horsepower than the previous model year, which it definitely didn't need. But I'm gonna wait till we get a clear stretch of road here, and then we're just gonna go drop a couple of cogs and full throttle.
The way that it moves is insane. It's one of those acceleration feelings that it feels like it plays with your vision a little bit.
It does. And it's interesting because unlike a lot of other internal combustion engines, with that electric assistance, you get a pretty good punch right off the line. And then once you get into those turbos toward the red line of 8,200 RPM.
8,200.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it comes absolutely out of nowhere, and it hits you hard and fast.
Unbelievable. Now this car with the electric motor can torque fill, and shift speeds are 25% faster than if it didn't have it, which is crazy. And depending on the mode, it'll either torque fill in the shifts, or if you go to track mode, it'll just give you everything that motor's got at all times to try to get you where where the car is pointed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this vehicle is absolutely insane. When we had this at our airstrip and did a 10-second quarter mile on an unprepped surface at over a mile above sea level, that is one of, if not the best times that we've ever had at that airstrip of any vehicle we've tested, including, I don't know, it's maybe a similar time to the Model S Plaid, some pretty ridiculous stuff that we've run on the track, but this car is basically as fast, if not faster, than anything else that we've driven.
It's truly unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy, and a 3.3 is 0.3 of a second off the claimed 0 to 60 time with the non-performance tires, right?
Yeah.
On a bad surface, like you said. So at sea level on the right surface, I've no doubt this car could easily dip under the 3s, which is pretty unbelievable.
Do you think, have you driven anything that's definitively faster than this?
A Model S Plaid.
Well, that's quicker accelerating, maybe.
Faster? No. Top speed is 205. This is easily the fastest car I've ever driven.
It's pretty insane.
And when we were on the track yesterday, the crazy part is you expect the thrust to be reduced at 110, 120, 130 miles an hour.
It just keeps
going.
Yeah.
Like it never ends, which is unbelievable. Now, from a driving standpoint, the thing that strikes me about this car is how small it feels.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels very compact, especially the nose is pretty small. So you feel like you're kind of right at the front end of the car, which you pretty much are. And yeah, it's very tight, very go-kart-like.
And when you get those adaptive dampers into comfort, we're taking these speed bumps with the nose lift up like it's nothing, right? I mean, it just, here we go, this is a good sized bump, picks it up, nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, that's actually pretty comfortable. The track mode is incredibly firm, but I do like that the different selections change the character of the car. You're not like locked into one setting, right?
Yeah, and it's not like a lot of other cars that are obviously also not nearly as premium as this, but many cars, you put them in different modes and it changes the shift points, and maybe that's about it. Not this.
No, this car really is a different character. Now, some downsides of the McLaren, the technology is a little disappointing. So this is an 8-inch screen, which is not a deal breaker, but I don't love the way it's incorporated in this bezel.
It's definitely kind of a big bezel, and for such a futuristic vehicle, it would be nice to have a screen that goes all the way to the edges and is maybe a little bit brighter and higher contrast.
The other crazy thing about this setup is it has Apple CarPlay, but no Android Auto. And for the price point of this car, you kind of expect it to have both.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Then again, if you can afford this car, you could probably afford just to get a second phone.
Buying an Apple just for the McLaren. Yeah. It's a 12-speaker Bowers & Wilkins audio system in this one. And if I lift up the armrest here, Kase, do you want to kind of show them some of the options on that sheet?
Sure. I haven't actually looked at this before, but the base manufacturer suggested retail price is $273,000. The calipers in McLaren Orange, $2,200. The wheel finish diamond cut, also $2,200. 10-spoke forged alloy wheels, $4,950. The technology pack, $7,400. Driving assistance pack, $8,350. Whew. Yeah, there's definitely some expensive options. America's accessory pack, $2,200.
Yeah.
Performance spec, $9,400. Let's see. The carbon fiber pack, $10,400.
Yep.
The electrochromic roof, $9,400. The purple that we have on this, which I do like a lot, $9,500. Yeah, there's some pretty expensive options on this one.
It adds up. So base price right around $280, but as spec'd we have $80,000 in options. So, you know, depending on how you spec your Artura, it can get pretty pricey.
Yeah, and I would assume that it could probably go up from even here.
Oh yeah.
At least by a little bit.
There's some more stuff. But I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the chameleon ability of this car. It's never subtle.
No.
Right?
No, especially not in purple with orange accents.
Not so much in purple with orange accents, but it can be made fairly comfortable, and even with this electric powertrain, somewhat daily drivable, and yet it can be an absolute track machine as well if you need it to be.
Yeah, for sure. And the flexibility of being able to peel the roof back, and that gives you better access to the sounds that come out of the powertrain of this vehicle. And when you have a nice day like this, being able to have your roof down is really nice. So to your point, there's a lot of versatility here.
There is, and it was a really special experience to get to live with this car for a few days. So big thank you to McLaren for letting us experience the Artura Spider. Definitely recommend the Spider. This is a way to live Artura. If you can afford this car, you can probably stretch to the Spider, and it just makes it a more special feeling experience. And folks, if you want to find out more, where can they go, Kase?
AllTFL.com.
Kase, this is more like it. I just jumped in the brand new 2025 McLaren Artura Spider, and this car has received a power bump up to 690 horsepower. It should absolutely decimate you in the 60 to 100 test, so
Let's do it. There's a big part of me that really wants to cheat.
All right, here we go. Up to 60 miles an hour. There's 50. Okay. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, wow.
oh my gosh, it's no contest! It's 100 miles an hour already! Holy moly, that's a lot of power!